Okay, good morning. This is Thursday, February 19th. And we're starting a little bit later than we had the schedule changed this morning. We canceled our first thing, so we were jumping in here at 9:45 with Mr. Baker from VAPTA and the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, as well as Catherine Dimitri. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, from Northwest
Correct.
Regional Planning Commission. Yes, okay. With some proposed changes to or additions to our bill on Act 181. So thank you so much for being here. Yeah, and other things that you might want to share with us. All good. Okay, turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you for the record. Yeah, Charlie Baker, Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, really here on behalf of our state association, VAPTA.
And Catherine Dimitri from Northwest Regional Planning Commission.
And so this is we will get to the changes, but we also want to give a little context of kind of how 181 is working from an RPC perspective. So we're not covering all of the details. There's a lot in that. But so what are we really focused on? The housing issue is really big for us as we have to break out housing targets for all of our towns based on the regional targets we got from the state, from the Department of Housing Community Development, which was part of 181 with the housing target portion. And then we're really spending a lot of time on the next two bullets there, what's eligible for tier 1B and trying to align the growth areas from the town, the region, and the state. And I think that's what we're really feeling good about and optimistic about, is that for the first time we'll have kind of all fully agreed upon growth area maps from town, region, state. Jump in anytime, Captain, out of these. And so, you know, in our role, that's our kind of role. That's what we're focused on. But the Land Use Review Board has a lot more that they're doing. I'm sure you've already heard some from them and probably more
Tomorrow. Yeah.
But they are now reviewing our regional plans, which is the first time that any state body has reviewed our plans. So that is, you know, a process we're going through the first time. And then they're looking at the 1B areas on our maps that we worked on with our towns. They will eventually, when any municipalities want to get full Act 250 exemption under tier 1A, that's something between the municipality and the LURB directly. So they are also in charge of that. These maps, tier 1B areas, are really also the designation areas. So that qualifies for designation benefits that are run by the Community Investment Board. Act 250 exemption area, the 1B, 1A, tier 2 rules, tier 3 map and rules, which I'm sure you've already heard more about, and we won't talk about again, I don't think. Any just questions just on kind of basic responsibility? Okay.
Well, I guess I think you're gonna go into this more, but I just want to highlight, I think there's the tier 1A and tier 3 area maps that are coming. And then there's the future land use designated area, or not future land use maps, which interplay with those. And then there's this third category of designated areas for the purposes of tax credits and investment from the state. And there's interplay between those two as well. And I know you're going to speak more to that. I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah, I mean,
I just wanted to highlight that.
yeah, this.
I'm sorry, do you mean TIF districts?
No,
Not TIF
just what was village centers, downtown centers,
I see.
neighborhoods. So
Okay.
those are the state designation program,
Right, okay,
not tips.
okay.
Yeah, which that's the other fourth layer.
Yeah, so many layers.
Yeah.
Tax credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what 181 really did was those were three separate, you know, parts of such three separate processes, and now they all kind of talk to each other, and it's more integrated. Is really what was accomplished in 181. So just to kind of dig in a little bit more, this is just for your edification, I guess, the regional targets that we all got handed, the regional housing targets. They were developed by BFFA, the Housing Finance Agency, with DHCD was really the final decider, and, kind of, we had some input in there too. And so that set out the goal, and note, we got a goal for 2030 and a goal for 2050. From a longer range planning perspective, we've really been using the 2050 goal as we've been working with it. Just in part of 2030 goal seems really close. And so we're, the 2050 goal, I think, also is helping us have maybe a little bit more realistic conversations. And note in the 2050 goal, it's kind of there was a lower target and an upper target, kind of basically a target range from 79,000 to 172,000. For context, I think we have about 300,000 housing units in the state. So, that's a big percentage increase. Even the lower one is a big percentage increase. The VHFA methodology is on the DHCD website. People want to, there definitely is, we've been working with townspeople, they're like, well, how did you come up with that? Number, where did that target come from? And, they do a lot of housing data analysis, so you can dig in, but they're, factor in second homes, homeless, kind of all the housing factors were factored into, the target development. Any questions on that?
Yes, good.
I'm looking at it online, so I can see it better, but I think I've asked this question before, and maybe I asked you, so apologies if I have. How is homes defined in these targets?
All of them.
Okay, so
Whether it's an efficiency apartment above your garage or a 10-bedroom house, they each have one.
okay. Because they're not all
20
They're not all equal.
unit apartment building is
20.
20, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Okay.
The housing unit, I don't know, but it's not.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is helpful. It should, I mean, the cost and viability of getting to different types of housing units varies greatly, so,
It does.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the things we're required to do at the regional level is to take these targets and divide them out by housing type. Like in an ideal world, what would be that mix of 20-unit apartment buildings and large homes and small apartments? And what would be that mix of homes that would help us reach that target?
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
So we do break it down a little more.
There's a question here.
These homes have a lifespan, have you built them? I know a lot of them are built modularly, so they can be taken apart at a certain point of their life.
Yeah, but this is the targets that were developed is just kind of a unit count without regard, modular could be part of the mix, but it's kind of every type of home. We're obviously not builders of these. We're just trying to work with our towns to try to create a supportive environment for home building. And, as we talk about this, I was start thinking about what are we really trying to do here? We're not trying to have towns or the state build 80,000 homes. We're really trying to unlock the market and have the market start responding. That's going to take a little while because the market, however you think about that, the labor, the materials, it's not all here right now. So it's going to take a little while for the market to really respond to these. And I think this is a large part of this is just in creating a message of like we're open to housing growth, which, to be frank, was not much of a message that we had the last few decades. Sorry. Hope that didn't insult any.
If I take this.
Sure.
So all the regional plan definitions are, as part of our future land use mapping, are mapping these areas that are eligible for tier 1B designation, and tier 1B means that you could build up to 50 units of housing on 10 acres or less, without even go through Act 250. There are 4 land use areas that are eligible for tier 1B. They're all growth areas. When we are done our mapping, we estimate anywhere from 2 to 3% of the state would be mapped as eligible for these areas. And that is a result of our balancing local plans, regional policy, and the state statutory language. So we're balancing all of those, and this is what we come up with. In comparison, the legacy downtowns and villages that were previously eligible for incentive programs and some Act 250 jurisdiction benefits was about 0.3% of the state, so it's a huge leap from what was, even though it is still only, 2 to 3% of the state.
And one caveat I want to mention is that the number for central Vermont here is artificially low. This is the legacy designation percentage of 0.8%. And just they're a little bit behind in producing a draft map. So I think probably very soon we'll have a draft map. So, then maybe this number nudges up a little bit closer to 2.5% or something.
And you'll also notice that the Northeastern Vermont Development Association and DDA region is very low percent, and that is primarily because to be eligible for tier 1B, you need to have local regulations, because the idea was to not have duplicative review, not have local zoning and then Act 250. Because the towns without zoning are concentrated in the kingdom, that's why their number is low. So the community isn't eligible for tier 1B, but they also don't have local regulations, so it's just a one-stop for the developer.
In terms of the process, 5 of the regions have now submitted to the LRB for that preliminary, or the initial 60-day review, which is so it's not for, I don't know, I've been calling it informal review. So it's something that we kind of baked into the process so that we could hear early on where the LRB was, and in their reviewing our maps for compliance with statute. So 5 of us have submitted, 3 of us have gotten our comment letters from the LRB, and the first 3 of us are kind of working through addressing those comments, and you'll be going back.
We plan to submit our final plan end of March.
Yeah. So that'll be the first one through, and just note that these initial reviews are extending into probably the summer, to July, from 2 Rivers. Having said that, though, we're all on schedule to get our plans formally adopted by our boards, certainly before the end of the year. Maybe, I don't know, there may be a little review by the LRB, maybe roll over a little bit into next year, I think, but we're on schedule with the deadline that was in statute, which is regions are going to finish our regional plans by December, end of December this year. And this is kind of what you were referencing earlier, kind of these 3 systems here, the regional planning, so we're doing the basic mapping with the towns. Land use review board reviews and approves. There are 2 maps really that come out of the designations, the centers and neighborhoods, and then the Act 250 tiers. So tier 1B is the primary thing we're asking for in our mapping process now. Good. And then this is kind of a different way to visualize this. Sorry, this is a lot to digest on one graphic. But kind of the regional plan future land use categories are across the top. So we have 11 future land use categories, which were pretty similar to what the RPCs were using historically. We've been doing these regional plan future land use maps for decades. And so what we did was kind of like, okay, let's just get to a consistent terminology and definitions. The 4 pink to purple categories, so village area, planned growth area, village center, downtown center, those the downtown center, village center become the centers under the designation program. The growth area around the centers and the village area around the village centers become neighborhoods. And so each one of those 2 designations have a slightly different set of benefits. So there's some more benefits, particularly like historic tax credits and things in the village centers, downtown centers. And then the third piece, which has probably gotten the more attention, has been the Act 250 exemption pieces. 1B is all that pink to purple area. Village area does not qualify for 1A. So the top 3, if a town has the top 3, they can apply to the LRB for full 1A Act 250 exemption. And then notice we have tier 2 spread throughout the rest of all of our land use areas. And we used to have a little box for tier 3 at the corner. Instead, we've just now added a note to the bottom that says tier 3 is subject to rulemaking by the LRB, and it's not derived from regional maps. And this is, we've been running into like a lot of conversations we've had to have with towns and residents. Because particularly we are mapping rural category conservation. And there's been some conflating or assumptions that that's gonna be tier 3.
Yeah, that our maps are regulatory, they're not.
Yeah, that is not the fact, but it is, admittedly, it does cause some confusion out there, so we're working through that with our towns.
Yeah, so, this bottom row,
Yeah.
this is helpful visual, or. I'm still not getting this in my head straight, so. Tier 1A and tier 1B, can a town be both?
They have to qualify for 1B
Uh-huh,
before they can get 1A.
right, okay, the B is
And-
coming before the A, that is true already.
It doesn't quite feel as sequential as it should be.
Okay, so, but they can, if they qualify for B, they can get into A. But you can't
In
be
theory.
A without B.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
B is a lower bar.
But not everything can become that.
but not every B can join A.
I think if it is like, A is like the highest density, biggest, no, like the biggest areas,
And then what
the,
about grass?
yeah, there's like your down stuff, yeah. There's a lot of stuff.
I gotta go, they have to go to do what Act 250 plus doing.
Right, they have to have a zone
They're
A.
like-
Let's say if it's effective.
Yeah, okay,
And
Yes,
And as we've been talking with towns, because we also did some of the tier 1A study work in 2023 that got fed into this. We there's really, I think there's 23 downtowns. Those are the largest, cities or towns in every region, it's the Bennington, the Brattleboro, the Rutland, White River Junction, you can
Mhm.
those are probably the candidate pool of 1A towns. Just because of, their capacity to do these things, and as we've been talking, because I have a couple of the towns that are most interested in this. There's probably about 8 to 10 that seem very interested in pursuing it, so just to set expectations, that's kind of what we're seeing right now.
And if, no, you go.
Well, I was gonna add, one clarifying point, because it's not necessarily the whole town that becomes 1A.
Right.
There's areas within the town that can be designated as 1A, and areas within the town that can be designated as 1B.
yeah,
So even like Burlington example, where I probably will apply for 1A. But there is a good chunk of wetlands and stuff like the Intervale,
right,
right? And so that would not be part of the 1A area.
got it,
And if you do have some language in S 325 now that removes one big hurdle for towns wanting to be 1A, which was the responsibility to enforce all of the activists.
Mhm.
So I think that does become removed from the requirements, then more towns will.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And this is sorry.
In summary.
Yeah, just another way to look at like the RPCs are doing the tier 1 growth areas, and then the LURB is really responsible for all the rest of the pieces. So all right, rough transition. Now we'll kind of talk about potential edits and kind of what we've seen. I'll do this slide and then we can do the rest too. So just background, we've aggregate cumulatively, I think we've done well over 500 meetings now with towns and residents. We have engaged thousands of residents in total. And a lot of us are still in those processes. And even those of us that have gone through the first round of review with the LURB, like we're going for the towns where the LURB had questions or comments, we're going back to those towns. I was just at a joint meeting with the Select Board and Planning Commission, kind of digesting the comments. So these meetings are going on. I have no idea what number, we may get up to maybe 1,000 meetings by the time we get to the end of the year. Really working on the 1B areas, and really we talking amongst ourselves, we've been trying to do it as consistently as we can, but part of the objective is like, let's see if we can have a 1B eligible area in every town. That, just the reality is that there's some really small towns that don't have those centers, and so, I think as we were talking about it, there's, I don't know, probably a dozen, maybe up to 20 towns that don't have a place to really qualify, but the vast majority of towns will have a 1B eligible area.
Designation.
Oh, or designation, thanks. Yeah, which may just be a village center designation, right? That's what we're really talking about. That threshold minimal designation area. The claim.
Oh, yes, sorry.
Is there a list of towns that absolutely don't want anything to do with?
That would be
So
part of
I'm thinking 27 towns in the district.
that.
If they all wanted the same, I'd like to know who they are.
Yeah, I think by the end of the year, we'll definitely have that. It's kind of working through, even those of us that have gone through, are at the front end, I don't think we have a final list of towns, because. Like I even have one town that's like debating whether they want to be in 1B or not, in the coming weeks.
And Rutland was the first to go, so I
That's
think
right.
they might have that list already, don't you think?
Yeah, I've been following the RPC,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
they were right on it, so.
That's right.
I actually attended a couple of their meetings.
Right.
Yeah. And there's an important point here about, it doesn't mean, there's also a decision on the town about whether they want to opt in. But they should at least have the option. So as we've been doing this, two major issues have bubbled up. One is about our ability to amend our plans. And I don't think any of us were kind of thinking, we're so focused on the first step, we weren't thinking about subsequent steps. So we'd like to see some process for us to be able to amend and make tier 1B request alert in an easier process than the full 8 to 9 month review process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the second issue is really about clarifying the definition for these, the 1B eligible areas, those 4 land, purple to pink land use areas. And just, I think it's all consistent stuff, but it's just in a variety of places. And we think it's important to make these 2 changes now, because it gives us a little bit of time to adapt our plans before submitting for final review. We can reduce a little bit of municipal frustration and provide more clarity. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the details.
All right, so we have been working with a number of partners over a few months to really talk through what we see as some potential improvements to Title 24, which is where all this is located, to really help the process go more smoothly, as Charlie outlined, specifically in terms of improving the regional plan adoption and amendment process. We have recommendations. The first is to move comments from the Community Investment Board to earlier in the process. The Community Investment Board is the state board that doles out the designation incentives, so the tax credits primarily. And right now it's set up so that we get those comments later in the process, and we like them right up front when we first get our first review from this review board, just to make sure we can really incorporate them. And then we have some specific suggestions about a streamlined regional plan amendment process. So once we've adopted these plans, this should be in place for 8 years. We would like a 2 to 3 month process to make amendments, whether it's adjusting a future land use map to reflect a town who maybe now is eligible for tier 1B that wasn't before, or maybe water and sewer is now available. Yay, that'd be great. And they want to expand an area available for growth. We want to be able to have a shorter process to do that, which would involve 1 hearing, a review by the land use review board, and then moving forward. And then the other thing that would be attached to that is a similar short process for tier 1B changes. Right now, the statute is written so that if a town who isn't opting in now wants to opt in later, we have to do the full 6 to 8 month adoption process in order to get that town their tier 1B benefits. And we think there should be a simpler 2 to 3 month process to do that, which does still involve a public hearing, public engagement. And then you may be familiar with the fact that the regional planning commissions also do this enhanced energy planning, where we do a more detailed energy plan, and that gives our plan added weight in the Public Utility Commission hearings for utility projects. Right now, the statute is written so that every time we update our regional plan, even if we don't change the energy plan, the Department of Public Service has to do their full review to make sure it complies, including a public process and a long written decision. Our proposed language would basically just say, if you've adopted a new regional plan, but you haven't changed your energy plan and the requirements haven't changed, you're good. We don't need to go through another process all over again. So both of all of these 4 changes would really just streamline the process and make it more efficient. Without changing policy.
Questions on that?
And the second set of changes really involve clarifying some statutory language around the 4 areas that are eligible for the designation program and the Act 250 jurisdiction changes, so around the 4 growth areas. When Act 181 was drafted, there were bits and pieces of definitions for those future land use areas that were scattered in different places of statute. And they're often saying this, trying to attain the same policy goal, but saying it in slightly different and potentially conflicting ways. So our proposed language would delete the extraneous places where it's located in statute and concentrate the definitions only in one place in our future land use area definitions. So add some clarity and certainty to what those definitions mean. The proposed changes would also really enable every town to qualify to have a center that has the designation benefits and allows us to incorporate these newer or emerging centers that perhaps don't have a place that's eligible for historic designation for a National Historic Register designation, but do reflect our growth patterns of traditional downtown centers surrounded by the working landscape.
Hasn't that program always been about historic centers?
It has always been about preserving the traditional development patterns, but there was never a requirement that the center itself be eligible for the National Register. So that was a new requirement that was included in one place in Act 181, but not in another, so it currently conflicts. So our proposed change would make it so, at least for the very basic benefits of the designation program, you don't need to be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, but to get the greater benefits, you.
Is that program called Step 1?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
yes, lots of moving.
yeah, does it come before A and B?
And then. Yes.
So that free.
That's 3.
Okay.
And that's numbered. The steps are numbered the opposite way of the tiers. Damn.
Oh, no.
So step 3 is the best.
Step 5
Highest is.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Who designed this picture?
not in 40 days, that's for sure. Mm,
Group editing.
yeah, overtime, sequential.
And is is that program a federal program? It's a state,
It's a state designation program too. That's the entry level village center.
okay,
It's a monster of our own making.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the final change here is that there was a definition of smart growth that was in statute that was, I think inadvertently removed when there was some deletions in statute, so we're proposing adding that back in with some tweaks to reflect the current state of land use in Vermont.
And just to note, Step 1 centers, the idea was to then have them position, get them into the program and then move them up. That's right, as they do the work to get there.
Yeah, that's a really good point, is that all of this, and all of our conversations with our towns are kind of in that mode, like, okay, here's where we are now, and what are you planning for? Because even if they don't want to do tier 1B now, we're like, and it maybe you want to do it in the future, so that's where I think the amendment process is also all largely about that, like, let's have the flexibility to meet the town where they are as they're evolving.
Like in the Rutland area, for example, there were several communities who wanted town tier 1B, but didn't qualify because they didn't have subdivision regulations, and the Rutland RMC is working to get the subdivision regulations adopted.
Step 1.
That's right. Yeah, and yeah, I think that's really, and then this last slide is really just saying, the other stuff on 325 that we see so far was good.
Looks great.
I don't know if I got them all exactly right, but
Extensions.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so that's, so kind of third, right?
Yes, that's what we currently have in there,
Clarify, and maybe this is for you too. The existing Act 250 permit. Enforcement would not go away, it would just go, it would stay with A&R.
Yeah, no,
Oh, no, with the word,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah. The irony is, at the time we wrote it, we thought, just like, get Act 250 the other way, you get it all. But as it turns out, it makes, I get why.
yeah, so
Yeah.
you guys have a transition period, right? So that if a property owner comes back, is that if they're doing some development work and they're coming back to the municipality, then the municipality can kind of, I don't know, subsume, I'm not sure what the right verb is, but they can kind of replace the Act 250 jurisdiction with the town jurisdiction.
Yeah,
And so, but it doesn't happen all at once, it'll happen more incrementally, be easier for a town to manage.
okay. And this is you
Yeah,
guys do this?
we did, and apologies to the Lord's council, that they're not in the room, because so I know they don't like it.
They think you guys do slides much better,
There's.
so they craft really well, they do slides.
Yeah, so this is, I'm sure not exactly
Very
right for the graphic, but it was just easier for us to look at the statutory language and actually make the edit in the statutory language, rather than trying to explain it. Would take many, many more words, but we did add a commentary on this, so you could get some sense of why we were proposing that specific change, from page to page.
We do have a little bit, I realize it looks like you're at the end of your
Yeah.
slides. And we don't really have time to walk through this whole thing.
Okay.
But are there any pieces that you would want to highlight? As specific language changes? If not, that's
We,
fine.
how about, we would happy, were there any questions or issues that came up? I don't know if people even had time, it was very late when we submitted it, to look at.
Yes, go ahead.
Just remind me, is the verb supposed to complete the process by December 31 as well, or is it just you have to get it, you have to
We
get
have to
it?
adopt the
And
plans.
they have then,
I think they have a 60-day final approval period.
So everything should be done by early March, end of February, early March.
Yeah.
okay. So they do have, it's those late submittals, they have the 2 months. Okay.
One of the things that I don't think I saw in your set of suggestions. Is around. So one of the things that we heard from Devin Neary from Rutland was because they went first.
Yep.
And it sounded like the process, well, it sounds like there's been some learning that happened, and we can ask, you know, the blurb about this tomorrow. But something that is on my radar anyway is to have some you know, that I guess I'm feeling I'm interested in consistency across the different regions, and that's not addressed in here, or is it addressed here? Like, and some kind of mechanism to ensure that there's consistency across the different regions.
Consistency from the LER decision.
Right,
making, or-
right.
I don't think we had anything that gets to
If not, that's okay.
It's a hard thing to address, and they really need to kind of go, I mean, I think we're all trying to be very sympathetic and supportive of the LER
Yeah,
and the process, because, and, you know, like the way they're doing the regional plans, they kind of have one lead board member.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think they're kind of working through that consistency as they're working through our regional plan reviews.
And I think
right
we're
now.
getting there,
Okay.
it seems like.
There's one other thing that I wanna ask about, there's, again, this is about Rutland, that my understanding is that they have some local plans that are timing out soon and need some extensions.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can speak to that, or maybe we should just have Devin Neary back and we can.
yeah, I'm not sure if he was referring to municipal plans, well, although that could be a bit of an issue. But there is one issue with the regional plan
The regional,
expiration.
okay, that's the.
If the amendments to the, like, some of the definitional center growth area language, I guess, we'd like to get a little extension of our expiration date to the end of the year, so not change the overall thing, still get done by the end of the year. But there's three of us that our plans expire in June. Chittenden, Rutland, and Addison, so we all would like a few months to like, we may not need it, but we'd like to have it available if we do need another extra month or two.
They expire in June of 26th.
Yes, yeah,
So you won't make it. Or you might,
we will be able to adopt our plan at our board. And then submit it to the board right after.
But if these changes are made to statute, those three regions were just like a few extra months extension to their regional plan expiration, so they can adjust their maps accordingly. And there is a note about that on page 2.
It's kind of a blue highlight, I don't know if there's some color.
Okay.
You do raise an interesting point also. I think one of the things that we're seeing as we go through this process with the LURB is some of this question about timing and expirations, like we have some town plans also that like are about to expire, so there's kind of a rush because the LURB won't approve like tier 1B in that town unless their plan was fully up to date. And I don't know how much you've been engaged in town plans. Every once in a while, like there's like a 2 or a few months of like, oh, we expired, but we're just finishing our process. And so I don't know, it'd be nice to have a little bit of slack in the system so that a town whose plan expires for 2 months isn't kicked out and has to come back in, like some sort of grace period, like that. So I'm not exactly sure how to deal with that. It wasn't something doesn't necessarily need to be dealt with this year, but probably something maybe that we can address next year as we start to try to change the system work. And have enough flexibility in it to like keep the purpose, but not drive ourselves crazy with every detail that happens.
And we could ask our colleagues if that is an issue in all the regions where they have a few towns where this is an issue, and if so, we'll let you know, because then it could simply be as simple as similar language to what we're looking for with the regional plans.
you talking one-time language?
Yes,
Yeah, session.
yeah,
Okay.
similar to what was done during COVID, where all of the plans were extended. You know,
Do you mean for this blue language, the extension, for 26?
Yeah,
But that one I get.
Oh,
that one
sorry,
was
sorry.
at this.
for the municipal.
It could be that, I mean, I worry about it going forward too, so I'm not sure. You know, like even 5 years from now, like, are we gonna kick a town out for 2 months and then bring it back?
Oh, we are,
Oh,
okay,
very good.
Wow.
Sorry, thank you.
thank you so much.
Very much, we really appreciate the time, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our bells are not